7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Inside Pacer Nation. I'm Marcus Johnson, and as usual, I am joined by Jordan Phillips, and we will be bringing you all the inside information on all the Pacer sports you know and love.
We're going to do our best to do that. We're going to break down all the statistics. We're going to show you all the numbers. We're going to make it real nice and nerdy in here for you. It's going to be awesome.
And if we actually make sense, that's going to be a bonus.
Yeah, that's we can't do that.
Yeah, there's no way that we're ever going to make sense. But what do you want to jump into to start things off? How about men's soccer? It's the first thing on our list, and they had a narrow loss to Young Harris, which both you and I were both at that game.
We were at that one.
I was at the women's game before that as well. But that game was a tough one to lose. But they were a great team. Young Harris is a nationally ranked team, and the way they played against them, even though they got the loss, they played pretty well and nothing to be ashamed of. And they scored. They scored a goal. Aaron Richards was a player now eligible. Aaron Richards, now a player who is now eligible for that game, scored a goal in his very first match. So that's a little something you can take away. Somebody, Richards coming right in and making an impact right away in a big match.
And Roberto Biandicho also got a goal in that match. He's continuing to have a nice season with 4 goals so far this season. He's doing really well. But as you mentioned, the Mountain Lions of Young Harris are a very, very tough team. They're nationally ranked, as you mentioned. And the Pacers I think if they played harder than I've seen them play all season, and they played a much more cohesive game. They were moving the ball effectively. They were getting it into the attacking end. A couple of plays didn't go their way. They were out of position on a couple of defensive stops and just weren't able to get the job done. But, it's still an encouraging game for Coach Ikefoji to look at. You played a nationally ranked opponent tougher than you've played anybody else this season. And going forward, you know that you have the ability to play anybody that tough. And that's got to be encouraging for Coach Ikefoji.
Well, one of the things is in a post-game interview, it wasn't that game, it was an earlier game. I'd asked Coach Ikefoji if he had addressed the passing issues and the ball handling issues that I had seen earlier on in the season, because during that game, they looked a lot cleaner. They looked better. They seemed to be more in sync. And he said, yes, that's one of the things we've been working on. So they are addressing the issues, and that's a really good sign, because if you don't address issues, you're never going to go anywhere. But this Pacer team is getting better. They're not quite there yet, but they're on the right path. And there is no automatic qualifier for the NCAA in men's soccer, so they don't have to worry about winning their conference outright. That would help a lot, but if their play is solid, they have a chance at making the tournament. That's a long shot. Let's just be honest here, but if they step up their play just a little bit and they start winning some key matches, you never know. They really could, and they've got some weapons to work with that. And they had a goalkeeper and defensive player of the week named just recently. Both Bolton and Kretschmar earned those honors.
Yeah, and Kretschmar has been a staple for the defense all season long. He's been absolutely lights out. You can tell the difference between the defense when he's out there and when he's on the bench. He's that kind of player. He's just a spark plug on the defensive end of things, and he just always seems to be able to find a way to get in front of those shots and help out his goalkeeper, which Chase Bolton is an effective goalkeeper in his own right, as you mentioned, winning the PBC Goalkeeper of the Week. And those two together have formed a formidable defensive front for the Pacers, and that's one of the things they're going to have to ride if they want to continue to have success this season. They're 3-4 or 5, I believe, at the moment, and they're going to have to step up offensively. The defense has been doing their job. They just have to step up a little bit more offensively and make a couple more key plays here and there on the offensive side of things, and I think they can make a big run. And as you mentioned, having Aaron Richards come back is going to be a huge, huge boost for this Pacer offense. He looked fantastic against Young Harris, and I think having him back is going to take some of the pressure off of Dries Barraquette and some of the pressure off of Roberto Biandicho, and I think that's going to make a big impact on this Pacer offense.
And the Pacers are 3-5-1 so far in the season. That's not such a bad record. You can easily salvage that, make it over 500. But one of the interesting stories about those 3 wins that they had is they had back-to-back shutouts for the first time, with one at home home and 1 on the road since 2006. That's the first time the program has actually had back-to-back shutouts since 2014. And that's a lot of credit to the defender and goalkeeper of the week, Kretschmar and Bolton.
And as you mentioned, they're going to have to make some big pushes this week, and going on into the end of the season, they've got a big few games coming up here. They're going to have to take on Lander Saturday, and it's going to be a big, tough challenge for them. You know, you've got with Lander, you've got Sam Lofts, who's been ranked as the National Player of the Week for the NCAA this season. That was back on October 3rd. And after that, they're going to come back home, and they've got 4 straight home matches. And you've got to hope, if you're Coach Ike Afoji, you've got to hope that you can come in and win a good bit of those. Like 2 of those matches are PBC matches. Actually, all 3 of those are PBC matches. One of them against Francis Marion, who's 6-3 on the season. And then you've also got North Georgia, who at this moment is 5-4 on the season, and then Clayton State is also in that home stand. They are currently 5-5 on the season. And you also play Emmanuel, which is the winnable game for the Pacers. But you've got to hope that you can win those big PBC matches here late in the season and get your season concluding on the right foot if you want to make the postseason.
Yeah, and in those matches, especially the one at Lander, I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but Lander, along with having the National Player of the Week, they are nationally ranked at number 19. So if you're the Pacers, going into that match, you want to play respectable. Winning it is going to be tough. There is no denying that.
Absolutely.
But if you can go into Lander and play Lander on their home field, and at least come away with a respectable game, even heck, if you can get a win out of that, why not go for it? Play for the win. But if you don't, there's no need to be upset about it. A nationally ranked opponent is a really, really tough for this Pacer team to deal with right now. But upsets happen every day, and I figure let's go for that.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've noticed it all season. This Pacer men's soccer team has a lot of talent. It's just about getting the pieces to work together and getting a cohesive unit out of it. And as the season goes on, I think the Pacers are getting closer and closer to that.
Yeah, the USC Aiken in the middle of the rankings so far for the conference. Young Harris tops things off for the Peach Belt at a 3-0 conference record. Lander right behind them with a 3-0 conference record, so they're basically tied. North Georgia at 2-1 is number 3 in the conference. Flagler at 2-3 at the number 4 ranking. Francis Marion 1-2, along with USC Aiken, both tied there in that category. So they're one of the opponents that they're playing, Clayton State, 0-2, near the bottom of the ranking. So maybe look to that as being one of your key games to try to really take a win away and boost yourself in the standings. Maybe make the Peach Belt tournament, and hope beyond hope that you make the NCAAs.
Yeah, you got to look at these games coming up, and these are must-win games if you want to make the playoffs. And I think the Pacers are ready for that challenge, and we'll see how they rise up to it.
Yeah, men's soccer, going to be a tough road ahead, but we'll see what happens in the near future. We'll keep close tabs on them for the next show. Moving on into women's soccer, and they had a match against Young Harris as well, and that one, you weren't there for that one, and you're probably lucky for that because that was a heartbreaker.
Yeah, I'll let you take the reins on that one.
USC Aiken was playing a fantastic game. They were in command of everything. They scored a goal around not too late into the second half. They managed to have a 1-0 lead, and they were conserving the lead. They were playing good defense. They were making good passes. They weren't taking too many risks that were going to hurt them, and then. Yeah, it looked like USC Aiken was going to have a win there. They were playing strong. They started subbing in some more players, and with about 2:15 to go, all of a sudden the tide turned, and Young Harris puts a goal in the net, and the Pacers were very upset, and they were like, "Oh, no, come on! How could this happen? We're this close to winning, and all of a sudden they tie it up." So now they're in the mindset. All right, let's just prep for overtime. We're gonna be good. We'll take it into overtime. We'll try to win it there. And in doing that, their heads weren't in the game, it seemed, and Young Harris took full advantage of that, drove right down the field, and not even within 2 minutes of the last goal, they score another one to take a 2-1 lead, and that pretty much sealed the deal. It was just a heartbreaking loss, and on the broadcast, myself and my partner, we were speechless. We couldn't believe that had just happened. It was a win that was just stolen right away, and emotions were running high, that's for sure, and they weren't the good emotions either. Everybody was pretty upset with that. But again, the thing is, it's only one loss. And that's how you have to look at it. You lost a game, all right. Get back on your feet, get ready for the next match, and win it this time. Don't play until 2 minutes left, and then you decide to take a break. Go in and play to the final second, because that's the only way you can win.
Yeah, and that's something the Pacers are going to have to take from this loss. It's a heartbreaker. It's an absolutely it's a devastating loss, but you have to be able to take a loss like that and move forward from it. You have to be able to learn the mistake that you made, and that's that, you kind of took your foot off the gas a little bit there at the end, and you paid for it, unfortunately. But I think it's safe to say now that they won't make that mistake again, because a loss like that is just absolutely heartbreaking, as you mentioned, and it's hard to deal with a loss like that. And you've got to be able to take that on the nose and rise above it the next time you're out there, for sure.
Yeah, and with that being said, you really want to hope that a loss like that doesn't hurt you in the long run. Because I don't know how many times I've seen it where you have one just back-breaking loss on the year for whatever sport you're in. And it just affects your play for the rest of the season. You're not in the right mindset. You're still dwelling on that. And that's the thing about athletes. You need to have short-term memory loss pretty much. You need to forget about it and just go right into the next game, go right into the next play with a fresh mindset saying, all right, we messed up. Big deal. Let's go on. Let's take it out. And, they're not out of it yet. There's still a few more games left in the season, and they've got some good players on the team. As I said, for the entire first half and for 90% of the second half, they were playing really great soccer. I mean, there was no other way you could say it. They keep great passing, great defense, great goalkeeping, which brings us to our next point. Who do you put in goal for this team? You got a couple of good goalies, Katie Commons and Karen Cadwallader. And, I mean, both of them are pretty good. The only one that I've really seen in action is Cadwallader, so I may be a little more partial to her. And she's been pretty good. She registered a shutout on the year not too long ago, and she's been pretty solid in that. So who would you go with? You've seen a few more than me.
I've seen a few more than you, and the one that I saw that was very encouraging for me was the game against Columbus State, who was number 2 in the nation at the time. And that start was actually given to Katie Cummins, as you mentioned, and it was a 4-0 loss for the Pacers, but I believe 3 of those 4 goals came in about a 10-minute span, and not all of them were on her. It was a tough match, obviously, the number 2 team in the nation. But Katie Cummins was absolutely fantastic in that match, as you mentioned, but you've got the veteran leadership from Karen Cadwallader, and honestly, between the two of them, I don't think you can go wrong. I think it's up to how you feel that day, personally, because as I mentioned, you've got the veteran experience, the leadership there with Cadwallader, but you've also got the youthful energy and experience, or just the general energy coming from the freshman in Katie Cummins. I think either way, it's a great way to look at your goalkeeping situation. There are a lot worse goalkeeping questions you could have, as who is good enough, who should I play of these 2 good goalkeepers today,
And it's a problem that coaches love to have, is I have 2 players that are outstanding and I can only start 1. Those are the kind of problems you want to have, and if that's an indicator for the future of this program, that's a good sign to have multiple quality players to play keeper or any other position, and that includes the play of Kat McHale, who she may not be lighting up everything, but she's certainly making her presence known, even if she's just sitting in the back. But from what I've seen, she's a great team player. She makes good, clean passes, good footwork, and she gets the ball down into the attacking zone, and she makes stuff happen.
And one thing you got to mention, Kat McHale looks fantastic this season. Looks much improved from last year. She's already matched her assist totals from last year in 7 fewer games, and she's only 1 goal away from matching her total from last year again in 7 fewer games. Her shooting percentage has increased. I mean, just all across the board, her statistics have gone up, and that's very encouraging. For her to have a season like this. Unfortunately, she is a senior, so you don't get to see if she can improve once again next year. But it's encouraging for Coach Hillary George to know that your players are coming in and they're getting better and they're performing to a higher level than next season. That's what you want as a coach. All you want to see is improvement. If it continues to get better and better, then eventually things are gonna work themselves out. And not only just from the veteran players like Kat McHale, but you have got a crop of freshman talent that is fantastic. Like Marissa Lee, who is currently tied with Kat McHale for the leader in goals on the team with 3. She has 6 points on the season. Then you can't go on and not mention the Olsen twins. You've got Gressa with 2 goals and Willa with 1 herself. She's got 2 points, does Willa. Gressa with 5. She has 1 assist. I mean, there's a lot of freshman talent on this team that is only going to get better as time goes on. And as you mentioned, Katie Cummins in the goal. I mean, it's encouraging to look at this team and see how much young players you have that are only going to get better.
Yeah, and that includes Amanda Raleigh on the defensive end of things. She's been a pretty solid defender, driving the ball into the corner and stealing it away when she needs to. I mean, they've made a heck of an impact, and the fact that they're freshmen is a great thing for this program. So a bright future for them. Even if this year, not so much. I mean, considering they're 1-4 in the conference, it's not a great record in the conference, but there is room for improvement. And again, the season's not over. But they do play Lander tomorrow, Saturday. And that's always a tough rivalry. Just I think they were an hour and a half down the road last time I drove up to Lander. So that's always a tough rivalry there. A lot of emotion, a lot of passion. And it's going to be in Lander. That's another one that you're going to want to steal. Lander right now sitting at an even 2-2 in conference play. That could be a win that they could take. We'll see what they do there. They got 3 more home matches on the year, however. October 11th, they play Francis Marion. On the 14th of October, they play North Georgia. And the 21st, they have Clayton State. So they're going to need to go through a couple more tough opponents, see what they can do. Francis Marion probably going to be, again, like I said, in the men's soccer game, that's going to be the one that the Pacers are going to look to try to steal away, improve their standings. Right now, Francis Marion sitting at the bottom of conference play at an 0-4 conference record. And speaking of the conference, go ahead and look at the standings. Your top 3, Flagler sits at number 1 with a 4-0-1 record in conference play. UNC Pembroke right behind them, 4-1, and Columbus State 3-1 record in conference play. So Columbus State, as we said, they were number 2 in the nation, and you've already got 2 teams that are ahead of them in the conference. That's something right there. Pacers sitting there, they are. I can't do math right now. They're down there though. Sadly, can't. They're number 9 in the nation, I believe, is their official ranking.
9 in the conference.
9 in the nation. Yeah, I'd love it if they were 9 in the nation.
They're currently 9 in the conference. So yeah, it does look rough currently for their playoff hopes. But I think if it's going to be tough, but if they can manage to beat Lander, Francis Marion, North Georgia, and Clayton State, and as I said, it's not an easy task to do, but if they can win all of those matches, I think they have a shot to make it.
They do, and but that's if they win them, and that's a tall order for any team to win that many matches like that. But you never know. Stranger things have happened, and we'll be looking forward to this Pacer team trying to do something, make a run at the postseason this year. But that about wraps things up for soccer. We can move ahead on to cross country. They had the Pacer Invitational. They actually were able to hold it. No hurricanes came through the area, so Pacer Invitational happened last weekend, and they placed 3rd. That's not too bad. That's a pretty good. A bronze medal is better than nothing.
Absolutely, and in that, you had pretty much the ace of the squad, Bethany Fordham. She finished 2nd. She's actually, because of her performance there, she's actually the USC Aiken Student Athlete of the Week for Pacersports.com.
Yeah, it's always nice to check out those little videos after you're done with this podcast.
Absolutely. And, that's the thing. It's a tough sport. is cross country. It requires incredible endurance and incredible just athleticism that neither you nor I possess.
I will not argue that fact. I hate running, and I don't want anything to do with running cross country. But hey, if people want to do that for a sport, by all means. And this basic cross country team not looking too bad. Looking at the sheets here, Mimi Inman, who is a rookie, she was the second finisher for USC Aiken behind Fordham. Not second overall. Fordham got that one. So, but that's not too bad to see that your rookie is coming in at number 2 on your team.
Yeah, not bad at all. And overall, she notched a 12th place finish, crossing the line in 24 minutes and 5 seconds. So that's not a bad time at all on the 5K course, that is. I mean, that's pretty impressive for the freshman. And, as we mentioned, you can only get better from here. And it's encouraging to see. This is a young team, as we've mentioned previously. You've got your freshman in Mimi Inman, and I believe there's 2 more. No, there's one. Actually, no. Mimi Inman is the only freshman, and then you've got Bethany Fordham as a junior, along with Brooke Thomas. There's only 2 seniors on the team. This is a young team. There's a lot of talent there, and there's a lot of room for them to get better going on into the rest of the season and then into next season as well.
Their team has a lot of depth. They're solid runners on that team. Good depth there. And the interesting stat on Fordham, she has been the top finisher for USC Aiken in all but one meet in her 2+ years. As you said, she's a junior. And if she can continue improving to earn all conference honors, that would be an incredible achievement. And she even has a shot to take down top 5 marks in school history for 5K and 6K races.
Yeah, and that would be a huge feather to add into her cap. But one thing, that would be interesting to see is maybe if Mimi Inman could maybe take that role from her a little bit, maybe push her to be a little bit better and see if she can finish ahead of Bethany Fordham every now and again. I think that would be, I think that could only do good for the team, it could only improve them, because if you've got one player, or one runner rather, that is finishing near the top pretty consistently, and then you have a freshman coming in who's able to challenge her and do more of that, I think it could be a really, really good thing for this Pacer team.
And it definitely would bodes well for the team that they have these young runners being able to do that, and still having Fordham for another year. As I said, she's only a junior. She's got another year to run, so we'll see what the future holds for her. Only a couple more meets left. The Bobcat Invitational and the SC State Invitational. Those are the only 2 regular seasons races left. Well, one this weekend and one next weekend. And then they have the PBC Championships on the 21st in Columbus, Georgia. So they technically have 3 more to go if all things fall into place properly. So, I mean, cross country, it's not one of the more popular sports here, but it's certainly not one to overlook. They seem to be making an impact, and they're getting the school name out there, and they're doing well. They're giving us good quality performances.
And as you mentioned, Bethany Fordham looking to take away some of those top 5 times in the 5Ks. She finished in 21 minutes and I believe 12 seconds, 21 minutes and 12 seconds. And, each one of Keely Gillespie's times in the top 5 and 5Ks are around 19 minutes and, the 19 minutes and 30 seconds and a little bit over mark. So Bethany Fordham definitely has a shot if she really pushes it down the line here. I think she definitely has a shot to make an impact on the USC Aiken history books.
And we'll be keeping a close eye on that, bringing you updates as quickly as we can, because sadly we don't stream cross country. If we did, it'd be following a runner all the way, and I don't have the endurance to run along with an iPad trying to keep track with any of these people. So
we'll get Cody Kiesler on that.
That's a good idea.
We'll put a GoPro on his chest. He's a pretty fit guy.
Either that, or we'll grab an intern out of one of the communications classes.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
And so that wraps things up for cross country. We'll move on into volleyball. Always it's always a fan favorite, volleyball here. Very successful program in recent years, and they have continued with that success, sweeping Peach Belt Conference honors. Martinez doing it again. She's been a heck of a libero for this team. I said it before, and I'll probably keep on saying it. I didn't think anybody could top Danielle Mercer. Well, she's certainly making an effort, and she's top 10 nationally in digs per set, and she leads the conference.
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca Martinez, what can you say about Rebecca Martinez that hasn't already been said? She's a fantastic libero. She's just an absolute monster out there on the court. I mean, just the other night in the match against Lander, she tied the record in school history for most digs in 4 sets with 38. Came very close to breaking that record, just couldn't quite get it in there. But I mean, she's already, as we mentioned earlier, set the record for digs in 3 sets, tied the record for digs in 4 sets. I mean, she's just having an absolute monster season. And before you know it, she might be kicking down the door of Danielle Mercer's all-time digs in a single season record.
I wouldn't be surprised if she does that. Even if she does it this year, she's just been that good. And I mean, there's so much talent on the team. And as we said in tonight's match, one of the unsung heroes, Okene Abago, she came off the bench and provided some clutch plays in that match against Lander, and that was.
Yeah, and that's been the tale of the tape for the Pacers this year. Is they are just so good, and they're so deep. They have so many players at so many different positions that are pushing each other for the starting job week in and week out. And you've got a player like Okene Abago who could be starting for a number of other universities, but she's probably 3rd on the depth chart in that middle position for the Pacers. But she came in that night and just made a huge impact on the game, and it was absolutely awesome to see, because sometimes you don't get to see a player like Okene come out there. I mean, in a close match, it's a little bit difficult to get playing time. But Okene came out there. The other 2 middle blockers were struggling a little bit in the match, and she just absolutely provided a spark plug for the Pacer offense and on the defensive side of things as well, with a block as well, I believe.
And yeah, they really needed that, because in the middle of that match, Lander started making a comeback. They were capitalizing on Pacer mistakes left and right, and they needed that spark to get them over the hump. And it was a close match. Set number 3. Very close score. Set number 4, Lander almost stole it away, but Pacers managed to lock it down at the end there and take away the win. And one of the big contributors there, also Julia Forrester, who has a chance tonight, and I say a chance. Barring an absolute disaster, she will break into the top 10 and kill. She only needs 2 kills, and she's already doing well enough to get there.
Yeah, she's having an absolute monster season. I mean, it's the story of the season for this Pacer team. Every player you look at is just playing above and beyond what you can expect, which you can expect a lot out of a player like Julia Forster and like Christine Carroll, but they're impressing so much. And you came into the season having high expectations, and they've somehow found a way to exceed those expectations. It's absolutely incredible what they've been able to accomplish so far this season. And if they continue this down the line, it can be a very, very, very fun team to watch going into region play.
And going back, also working with region play, going back a little bit to that match against Flagler, they went down into Flagler. That was the one match that we were all looking at and saying, all right, this is the one that we're not going to expect them to win. This will be a tough match for them to win. Flagler right there with USC Aiken in terms of skill, region competitor, conference contender. And they went down into Flagler and they won 3-1. I mean, with that win right there, they have changed my expectations for what they can do this season. I was originally saying that unless they host the regional championship, their chances of winning it back-to-back years are not as good. But if they do host, even if they don't host, I think that they still have a really good chance at winning another regional championship. That's how good this team looks. Now, they do have some hiccups every now and again, like in the game against Lander the other night. They didn't play as well as they could have. Also in the game against Francis Marion, which was in Francis Marion. Their hit percentage wasn't as great. There were a lot of errors that the Pacers were committing, but Francis Marion just committed a few more, so they kind of stole away a win there. But even with games like that, they're still playing so good. It's almost like they don't even have to bother showing up, and they still play well. And that could come back to bite them if they get a little too complacent with what they're playing. But right now, Coach Cox has a great squad, and they're just I mean, they're just impressive.
They are, and one of those, and as we were talking about with Okene-Abago, one of the things that has been extremely beneficial for the Pacers has been that middle blocker position this year. I mean, you look at the play of Christine Carroll. Christine Carroll, third on the team in kills, and then right behind her, not too far behind, Alicia Hines is number 5 on the team in kills. I mean, that middle blocker position has been an absolute there's no other way. It has been one of the strongest positions for this Pacer team. They've just been absolutely dominant this season.
And when you pair Christine Carroll up with Avery Macklin, you got a solid wall right up there at the net for the blocks. And Avery Macklin, let's move on to her for real quick because she's been impressive. She didn't play a whole lot last year, and it's a darn shame because she is doing fantastic this year. And going back into the Lander match because that was the most recent one they played, she was putting that ball down with some authority, and there were a lot of kills that she had that were kills because of her strength. The blockers got up, they timed it perfectly, they read it perfectly, but there was nothing they could do. She just hit it so hard that their arms just gave way.
Yeah. And, going into that, you were talking about Carroll and Macklin. Christine Carroll currently leading the team with 38 blocks. Right behind her, who else? Alicia Hines with 31. And then following up Alicia is Avery Macklin with 23. Macklin's play time has been increasing each match. She's just been fantastic. Every time Coach Cox puts a little bit more pressure on her, says, okay, I'll give you a little bit more time this match, she makes him look smart for it. I mean, she was absolutely a dominant force in that match against Lander. She's one of the big reasons why they were able to pull out the win there. And I mean, it's encouraging to see if you're Coach Cox, knowing that no matter who you put in there, you've got a quality player in at every position.
And quality players, going back to Julia Forster, the countdown begins for her. She's approaching 1,000 career kills in addition to being close to the top 10 in kills. She should get to 1,000 kills. If she doesn't, I would be very surprised. Again, that's barring disaster. Emily Telon as well. She's a bit of a quieter, unsung hero, but she is a great setter, and she's improved as well from last year. Last year, she did a lot of those, quick little shovel passes over the net, catch the defense off guard, and a lot of times she'd tip her hand. You'd see her getting set to do that, and the other opposing team would get ready and they'd move in on the ball. But this year, she's a lot better. Her hands are a lot smoother. She has a great deception, just sending it right on over. And of course, she's an ace when it comes to aces. She's a great server. Picked up another service ace in the match against Lander. Probably will get a couple more as time goes on. She's been a phenomenal player, but she'll be leaving soon, so that's a sad note. But
yeah, Telon currently number 9 all time for the Pacers in aces with 119, and she's also number 4 all time in assists with 2,909 assists.
No, she's always on that ball. It always seems like every single play she's getting there. She gets the setup, and then you have either Allie Smith, the freshman, come in for the kill, Forrester comes in for the kill, or Macklin and Carroll just deciding, all right, we're just going to go ahead and overpower you with this one.
Yeah, the Pacers have so many different ways to score. It's got to be disheartening, for the Peach Belt Conference opponents of the Pacers to look at this team, and it just seems like no matter where they are or where you hit it, there's somebody there who can block it, and there's somebody there who can beat your blockers. It's an intimidating team to play against. I'm sure.
Yeah, they're riding it right now. They're riding a 13-match winning streak going into the match against Augusta. That's going to be tonight here at the Convocation Center, and we'll be on that broadcast, and we'll be enjoying every minute of it, especially if they win. Augusta, tough team as well. I've been covering them a few times this year. They've got some good talent, and they're going to have to watch out for Mackenzie Beck, as she's a pretty darn good setter. So that's going to be the one player they're going to have to focus on if they want to come out with a win on the Jaguars. But Pacers are a good team. They'll find a way around it. They'll work their magic, and I want them to run the table. That's going to be my expectation. Just run the table from here on out. You've already beaten Flagler in Flagler. That was the really tough match. You got to play them one more time. That'll be on October 27th. That's going to be a real fun day for Pacer volleyball, especially bringing Flagler into town. And that'll be the other match that you got to watch out for. But run the table, go into conference. You know what? Why not run the table in there, win the conference tournament, and then run the table in the regionals, bring it on to the nationals.
Absolutely. So I think that
That wraps it up for
I
volleyball.
think that about wraps it up for volleyball. We can go ahead and talk about the golf team a little bit.
Other more contenders there, national contenders as always with the golf team.
Number 9 ranked in the nation, actually.
Yeah, just go ahead and make them number 1. We play D1 schools all the time. Let's just give them the number 1 ranking. But they finished 4th at the Firestone Invitational, the only Division II team out there of 16 teams. So you finish 4th against a bunch of D1 schools. You're doing something right.
Yeah, and they recently actually finished 4th at the Firestone Invitational, and they were the lone Division II team out of 16 teams. They were the only Division II school at that event, and they finished 4th overall. It's pretty impressive.
That's what I just said.
Oh, did you? Oh.
I was about to say, is there an echo in here?
I was reading the statistics and getting caught up on that stuff while you were.
I get it. You were on the script. You're like, this is exactly what I'm going to say.
I'm thinking ahead, But I guess we can go ahead and talk about Johnson Holiday.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Johnson Holiday.
The redshirt senior, he finished 4th overall at the event. I mean, that's got to be encouraging for Coach Michael Carlisle. Goodness gracious.
Boy, you were having trouble tonight.
I'm off, man. I'm off.
Yeah, but he had the fourth place finish, PBC Golfer of the Week after the first tournament of the year. That's pretty good. And he could be. There's a chance that he could be the Golfer of the Year. And I mean, let's just be honest. UC Aiken has just such a great program that's not even a long shot. You could easily do that.
Yeah, it's a definitely an achievable goal for Johnson Holiday, and I think I would not be surprised at all if he did get that PBC Golfer of the Year award by the end of the season.
Yeah, they're the defending Peach Belt Conference champions, so it's always nice to have that feather in your cap. Easily, it makes it a little more. Makes people a little more inclined to vote for you for the Players of the Year, and they've got a great shot at making another return trip to the NCAA tournament. And last year, it's just they were gearing up for a run at the national championship, and they just fell short. They couldn't make it out of the regionals, and we'll see if they can fix that this year. Again, the only program in USC Aiken to win national championships: 2004, 2005, 2006. Let's add another one here in 2017.
Well, I mean, and not only that, they did struggle last year in the regional tournament, as you said, but this year they've got a return performance from Axel Ostenson, and he's been doing fantastic. He actually nabbed a top 25 performance in that Firestone Invitational that we were talking about. He was 6 over par, so that's not too bad. And if he can continue to improve on this season, the Pacers might just have a chance at that national run that you were talking about.
And they got a couple freshmen in the lineup, looking to them to make a big impact. And even if you pull in some freshmen, if you're taking them out of the Southeast region, you're getting some good quality golfers. And a team national championship would be great to see here. I know our sports information director, Brent Hager, that's the one thing he needs, and his resume will be complete. He's already gotten some individual national champions. Now he wants that team national champion.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice feather in the cap for all of us here in the sports information department at USC Aiken. I know I'd be pretty pleased to be working with a national title winner.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little thing to say. We already have a region champion under our belts, a couple All-Americans. Let's have a national champion in the mix as well.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea to myself.
All right, now that about wraps things up with golf. What more can you say? They're a great program, and they've always got that shot at the national championship. But let's move on into Pacer Madness to close things out for the day. That'll be October 16th. We're going to introduce players of basketball. I was going to say football, but we don't have football, do we? We're going to have the cheer and dance teams coming out and putting on a nice little show there. Introduce some of the other student athletes possibly. Fun and games for the students, staff, and community will be around, and we'll have it's going to be a grand old time with basketball getting ready to start up. And before we close on out, let's get a few predictions on men and women's basketball this year.
I think it is going to be a big season, especially for men's basketball. I think men's basketball is going to do a really good job. I predict Marcus Terry to be a huge force for the Pacers. I've heard a lot of good things about him from a couple of my sources on the basketball team. And I expect it's going to be a very productive season for the men's team. And the women's team, I think, is going to surprise a lot of people. There are a lot of unfamiliar faces for Pacer Nation, so nobody really knows what to expect from the women's team. But I expect they're going to come out, and I think they're going to surprise a few people. I think it's going to be a big season for them.
Yeah, I think my prediction for men's basketball is going to be a very similar year to last year. With them being in contention for the conference. Whether they win the conference or not, I won't say yes or no to either option there. They're good. They're going to have a good team. They got a lot of returning players from last year, and like you said, they're going to have some more impact players that they've just recruited. Women's basketball, I'm gonna go off and I'm gonna say they're gonna start slow this year. I think that they're gonna have some. This is just me. What do I know? But I think they're going to have a little bit of chemistry issues to start off. But once they fix those out, I think they're going to be a really solid team, and they're going to do well. They're going to start off first couple games. They're going to be, they're going to be in them. They're going to be out of it. It's going to be like any young team, and. But as the season goes on, I think they're going to make a run and possibly, take the conference. They did well. They did well last year, but they're what am I saying? They did well last year. They're going to do better this year. And, head coach Mark Miller has said that this is the fastest team that he's got. So once they learn to work with their speed, that's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, and one of the big problems for the women's team last year was just a lack of depth. There just wasn't much depth on the team. But they have plenty of opportunities to. They've got a full team this season. They're coming in with a full squad, and if Coach Miller is to be believed, and this really is the fastest team he's ever had, I'm pretty excited to see what they can do.
Yeah. So my prediction: once they work out the kinks early on in the season, or even if they want to work on that in the preseason, by all means. But they're going to be a contender this year. Men's basketball will be a contender. Will they win their conferences? Stranger things have happened. It could happen. I wouldn't be too surprised either way. But that about wraps things up. We'll have baseball starting up in the spring. We don't really have too much information on that. The schedule is now out there, though, so if you want the baseball, softball, basketball schedules, those are on pacersports.com. Go ahead and take a look. Make predictions of your own for what the season will hold. But we will be closing things out here at the Convocation Center. For Jordan Phillips, I am Marcus Johnson. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good one.